Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 39. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. So the first one is Twitter, and they had a press conference, a virtual press conference, and they announced a few kind of safety features really. I thought the most interesting one was called Heads Up. So this I'm not quite sure how it works. They said they measure the vibe of the conversation. So clearly there's algorithms behind that. But what they do is they measure the vibe, and they say that this is pretty much getting a bit spicy. You might need to watch yourself in this conversation. So they alert you to that. They just give you a reminder. Just remember to be human, basically. And if you're up for it, count me in. Away you go. So I thought that was quite interesting. So you don't get lulled or you don't sleepwalk into difficult situations or difficult conversations. They also have another couple of features as well which I thought were interesting, worth calling out. One was called word filters. There's already a sort of a avoid these words filter in Twitter already, so this is a more nuanced version of that. So if any of those words appear in conversations, then they won't appear. And also if somebody is talking about you and they're atting you with your @ username, you can also remove yourself from those conversations as well. Again, these are all in process of going through at the moment. They're all basically being tested. Not quite sure whether they'll make it through. Twitter are chucking a load of these things out at the moment, but there you go. It's very good for basically inclusion and safety online. This is neat. So this is actually research by University of Buffalo in New York, and they used a radar to point at people 200 meters away and identify their cardiac rhythms. And not only that, they can identify individuals because of their cardiac rhythms. So this is over and above something maybe more intrusive like facial recognition or something like that, or actual documented ID. This has got quite a lot of military sniffing around it at the moment. So clearly if somebody's planted a bomb or an IED and you've got one of these radars looking at them, you can identify them later because of their heartbeat essentially. So that's kind of neat, kind of interesting, kind of sinister, all those good things. But I thought what was quite interesting as well, it's a relatively passive way of identifying people with their consent, whether they're in the room, for instance. So maybe if you've got a device of the future and you want to know who's in the room, maybe something like you're a TV provider, you want to know who's watching, and therefore to customize the settings, whatever, all those things, then that could be a possibility. Likewise, if you're a doctor or work in medicine, you can also diagnose people non-invasively, which is good. So again, creepy, weird, interesting. This may be something of the future. Metaverse avatars. So this is Ready Player Me, and I saw this basically through a game. So this came via a sort of a gaming link initially, and I think, oh, that's kind of interesting. What's going on there? So this is these are games, or these are experience. So they could be anything from virtual reality to augmented reality to fashion shows, virtual fashion shows, but they feature your avatar. So you go to Ready Player Me, you design your avatar, and this is obviously my slightly ham-fisted avatar on the right hand side. You can take a picture and it will sort of half create the avatar for you. You can customize it from there, but then what you do is you own your avatar. You have a unique avatar, and therefore when you turn up to a game, any game that supports this system, then you actually can use your avatar. So if you're used to the Xbox or whatever, you have your avatar, but if you have a Nintendo, you have your Me. They're all separate, whereas this one actually draws it together to one single avatar. There is also a software developers kit, so you can actually develop your experiences using this. So that's everything from Unity to Unreal. I think there's a React kit, there's a web kit in there, there's Android and iOS, so it's all good. So go and check it out, and if not, just go and design your interesting avatar. Give yourself some funky clothes and funky hair. There you go. Now this one is a bit of an update. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I reported on Dabus, which is basically an algorithm that can invent things, and the creators were on a bit of a mission to get their software basically cleared through the courts to actually be the inventor on patent applications. So they've gone to Australia, and South Africa, and both of those courts had said yes, that's absolutely fine. The US said no. Europe said no, and the UK has just said no. Furthermore, as you see from the little quote on the side, the ruling judge, which was a 2-1, so it only narrowly got through, but basically said only a person can have rights, a machine cannot. And so that's now in law, and it was actually the Court of Appeals as well, so it's actually gone to appeal and it's actually been quashed as well. So unfortunately, if you are a machine currently in the UK, then you might want to move to South Africa or Australia to basically spend the rest of your life. It's not going to happen for you in the UK. So that's interesting. What that was going to do is create quite a lot of havoc with the patent applications process if you can get essentially algorithms that can spew out millions, maybe thousands a second, unique patents, then we're not ready to accept that at the moment. So there you go. Starlink satellites have been used as a kind of back channel GPS. So this was with no collusion with Starlink whatsoever. They had nothing to do with this, but Starlink, if you didn't know, sort of Elon Musk's satellite low Earth orbit broadband satellite system. Now, these are, when I say low Earth orbit, these are at 750 miles above the Earth, and GPS satellites are 23,500 miles above the Earth. So those GPS satellites are slightly more prone to having sort of atmospheric interference, etc., etc. They are accurate. GPS is accurate down to about 5 meters. Whether this new technique, which was essentially sort of hacking the data coming from, or the signals coming from the Starlink satellites, was accurate to 8 meters. So not a million miles off. Well, 3 meters off, in fact. So what does this really mean? So this basically means it's a bit of a backup to GPS, or it could just be used as a sort of open source GPS, really. So they used 6 satellites. They used an algorithm to figure out where the actual satellites were, and they could triangulate a point on the Earth using it. So that's kind of interesting, because we've heard in the past, we've heard sort of GPS being either spoofed or being hacked. A couple of years ago, there were lots of ships crashing, for instance, because they were getting false GPS signals. So this might be an interesting way to be slightly more secure as well. So as I say, this was with no collusion or no partnership with Starlink. So this was actually just researchers using freely available signals coming from new satellites. So that's kind of neat. China has banned cryptocurrency again, so I'll just explain this one. So about, I think it was 2019, they banned pretty much kind of trading and creating cryptocurrencies. So it's been in a shadow, shall we say, but you can still get away with certain activities. However, they've really gone all out. So the People's Bank of China has banned all transactions and made them illegal. So pretty much killed it in China. So you think, oh, obviously then they don't really want cryptocurrencies, which actually isn't the case. So this is really, the whole point of this one is you cannot track all cryptocurrencies. So therefore, finance was going in and out of the country, which the government cannot control and have no visibility of. So what this is really doing is it's clearing the boards really for the yuan, or whatever it's going to be called, which is going to be China's official cryptocurrency, which can be tracked because it will go through the government. So it's not it's not that they are against digital currencies, it's just that they are against ones that they cannot control. And there you go. So if you have Bitcoin and you haven't looked at your account recently, you might want to do that. There was a bit of a dip. I think it dipped by 5%, but broadly speaking, it sort of went back up again. So I think also you've got the likes of Twitter and PayPal also accepting cryptocurrencies. So what goes down goes up in terms of news, and there you go. So if you haven't checked it, do that now. And finally, the world's smallest, which I found hard to believe, but apparently it is, this is the world's smallest manufactured flying device. Comes with a slight sort of warning, really, because it's not really a flying device, it's really a hovering device. But what you can see here is, if you did, I had a bit of a what do I put on the screen to really show you what it is. I thought this was the best, but basically what it is a microscopic, it's about the smallest one they do is about the size of a grain of sand. And what it is lots of sensors in a ring in the middle with these kind of 3 rotors. So it falls like a sycamore seed, and it just floats. So you can drop these from a helicopter, an aeroplane or a tall building, and they will disperse themselves among the environment, and those sensors on board can do things like pollution or light, or they can measure Wi-Fi, or they can basically bounce signals around themselves. So why would you want this? Well, if you're doing any monitoring or you want to do sensoring, then you can do that. So as I say, they can get caught on wind and disperse themselves, and you might be thinking, well, that sounds like littering. This is the sort of the space dust or the micro dust or nano dust that we've always seen on the Gartner hype curve, but it's never really materialized. It's sort of getting close to it now. So what happens when it lands? It biodegrades after a certain amount of time. So that's kind of cool, and I just thought I'd put this. This is why there's a render of a heart. So this is actually a piece of research, actually a device that was a biodegradable pacemaker. So one of the problems with heart surgery is obviously the risk of infection, and putting anything in the heart is going to increase that. So this great pacemaker, which is based on the same technology, which is why I'm telling you about it, I thought was just worth mentioning, because you put this pacemaker onto the heart, it receives electrical signals from outside the body. So you basically put something on the skin, it then obviously activates the heart, and when it's done its purpose, if you just need a temporary help with your heart, then it dissolves, and therefore you don't have to open the patient up again, which I thought was interesting. So same technology, but this is really that nano dust. As I say, go and have a look at the Gartner hype cycle a couple of years ago. It's right on the beginning of the hype cycle. This might be it, but there you go. So not quite sure where this is going, but they do exist now. And with that, we are done. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully that was useful, and I will see you again next week.